3, 2, 1, go.
Back, everybody, to the Triad of the Force podcast, a podcast from 3 Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd-related media. This is season 3, episode 11, and today we're taking a little bit from Star Wars and diving into some Marvel. Now, if you haven't checked it out, we already talked about the series premiere of Moon Knight, and today we're going to be focusing on episodes 2 and 3. So if you haven't checked it out, go ahead, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and remember to keep following us. But before we get into Moon Knight, to all nerds rejoicing, today was released the trailer, the first teaser for Thor: Love and Thunder. So there's no way we could not talk about it. So we have to. We just have to. What do we think?
We always have to adapt. We always have to adapt. Because who knows what's going to happen? So it's like that meme. It's like adapt, overcome. So I wasn't expecting it, honestly, because people were like with all their conspiracy theories about that promo picture that came out a couple of weeks ago of Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth and Taika Waititi like doing different hand gestures, and people are saying like, oh, it's gonna come out on this date because the internet thinks they're so fucking smart. And all of a sudden, that day, exactly. But then what happened? That day came and went. So without a trailer, and then today we were blessed with such gloriousness. And what just when I thought that Marvel just couldn't like push the envelope of like how amazing a movie can look, and just when I'm saying like maybe Taika Waititi should kind of take a break, because I think and we got this. And for me, one of the best things of this trailer, we'll get to like what's actually in it, but for me, one of the most important things, what's something I heard in it. Because in the beginning, I hear like a little melody of like this little band that I happen to like since, middle school. And I'm like, that sounds awfully suspicious. It sounds like a song I know. And all of a sudden, when the trailer starts proper, bang, slash, playing the riff to Sweet Child of Mine, Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, best band ever. Amazing. What better trailer can you ever make? Once you have that song, the trailer is just incredible.
And they don't go back on it. When I first started listening to the riff, I thought they're just going to stop here and they're not going to go full on it. But then they just did it the entire trailer. And here I was singing along to it like a fucking idiot and loving every second of it. And it made me that much more excited for the trailer. But
not just that, because I feel like the last 10 years of trailers, the fashionable thing is to take a classic song from like the 70s or 80s and do like a modern dark remix
retake of it,
thing. Yeah, and it's just like, okay, fine, been there, done that. But to actually just use the original version and just no holds barred, I was like, amazing. But I cannot keep going without asking Nani, how many times have you seen Guns N' Roses?
I hate you.
Because I remember
so many levels.
A couple times.
Yeah, no, none, 0. I hate you.
None.
Shut up.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there was the one time that you could have gone. And you didn't go.
It wasn't made to be. And I still played the song at my wedding. So.
And it was amazing. I'm not going to say what happened because that was only for the people that were there. But one of the best wedding moments of all time.
It was fantastic.
And in both the best and worst ways.
It was just fantastic.
Anyway, Mo, I'm gushing about the song, not even the trailer, but Mo, what did you think about the trailer going in? Because I immediately, after I saw it, I texted both of you. She's like, did you guys see it? So like, what was your initial reaction seeing that? Because we always keep talking about weird in storytelling. Like, let's get weird. And I feel that Thor is delivered with Ragnarok started to get weird. And I feel like this film might even
building up
further.
The build.
So So how did you feel about it?
I think that's what it feels like. They are building up on everything that sort of worked with Ragnarok. Like just do away with the typical like hero. Like let's go on a journey. I just love that the title says Love and Thunder. Like very rarely. Like rarely do you see, unless it's like a romantic movie, love being used as part of a title, which is obviously sad because we all know love is the most powerful force in our universe. So why not bring it in when you're
Especially
dealing with
when
it?
the people of love are Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful. From what I see, that this film might explore more avenues of love. Like Western culture has been like very
Mhm.
limited on what love is, and it seems like this might be an intro to like, you know, self-love, like the love of friends, the love of their, you know, the Greeks had like 10 different words for love, like from egocentric love to like outward love to love of this space to love of like just love. So to see that there's might be like an exploration into that field from a very like pop and like
Yeah.
classic, oh, there's Thor, like everybody can recognize like Thor, like, but what do we see? Like, oh, he's planting a tree, like literally planting like
Yeah, from the axe. Yeah, so good.
and like the whole sequence of like, you know what, I was born as the god of thunder, but just because you're born something or within a certain culture or religion or society, or doesn't mean you're bonded by it. You have the choice to break away from it, and I think this is what the movie is all about. Like finding your own way and like breaking away from, you know, what society, what everything around us is always constantly saying that you have to be this or that. It's like, fuck all that shit. You can be whatever you want to be. If you find yourself first and you find your own self-love. And I think this is what the trailer sort of like gave that vibe. It's just like there's a lot of like energy, there's color, there's a lot of like I honestly just thought this was gonna be like a, you know, a Thor's self journey, and that's it. Like I didn't see like there's gonna be like a bad guy or good, but I mean, I'm knowing Marvel, there's gonna be like some,
Of course there is.
they're gonna mix in like the multiverse, and then all chaos will break shit at the end. But for now, it just seems like it's just that journey. Like, you know, Thor has been through a lot too. Like Thor has lost all of his home world. Lost
Loki like 17 times.
Like this,
his father almost got murdered by his sister.
Like almost murdered by his sister.
Yes, yeah.
You know, like I think he was the one that actually like had the idea to break out Ragnarok and make the fall of so like all of that,
it's a lot of trauma.
It's a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
And then you went to Thanos, and we saw like, you know, it wasn't like probably the best representation, but we saw like that depressed like Thor, like oh, let go, like it's not taking care of himself, and we're seeing like that Thor reclaiming from what they learned in that process, because, you know, Thor had friends, Thor had like created its own family, and like, so to see what comes next and just be unhinged about it, like I think that's what I'm excited for it. That's for sure.
Nani, how about you? How did you feel? Guns N' Roses aside.
Oh, obviously. But like Mo was saying, from the moment that they announced the title, I was like, I'm all in for that. But then just watching the trailer now, it's like Mo was saying, we saw Thor break basically, and now we're seeing him put himself back together, and it looks like it's going to be a glorious, colorful, fun, amazing
training
journey.
Montage, Rocky thing with the chains.
I know. It's so good, you know, and then it starts out very zen, very Jedi, him like meditating. This is about me finding myself and finally doing what I want to do and having no plan, and finally traveling with a found family, which is what it looks like the Guardians become for him, as well as, because, you know, we have Taika's character coming back, and we have the Valkyrie coming back, and how all those interactions are going to work. But Ragnarok is actually one of my favorite Marvel releases out of all of them. I was very surprised by it. So I'm really excited. Obviously, Taika is directing again, and that it looks just as colorful and amazing as Ragnarok did. So I can't even, I mean, that shot of Seuss just grabbing that stupid looking plastic thunderbolt was so good.
You're not entertained.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And he does the thing. Yeah. Which they absolutely had to do on purpose.
They
They
have
were
to
like,
do.
well,
They
you're
have to-
Russell
they have-
Crowe.
they have to do it on
Zeus.
purpose.
Okay, let's do it.
It looks
Let's do it.
absolutely gorgeous. All of it. And I don't know. We've talked a million times. We want weirder, we want cooler, we want just like take it all out there. And it looks like they are going to do it here. What I am worried about a little bit is the fact that we have the Guardians along for the ride. And, you know, they worked in the Avenger movies because they were kind of part of the ensemble that was going on and they weren't in it all that much. But having a whole movie dedicated to them, I don't know how that dynamic's really gonna work. So I'm really hoping they don't screw it up because so far it looks really good, but we'll see. But I'm really excited. Oh my God. Yeah.
I have a feeling that whole, because I agree. I think like
Yeah.
having the Guardians might be like too much, especially when the movie is about Thor, right, in his journey.
Yeah.
But I do feel like the trailer is a little misdirect with some of the Guardians.
Maybe.
Because I think that I'm not saying that they won't come back in the final act for the final battle when they're doing the, you know, when they're doing the Marvel third act resolution thing.
But that they might be in it that much.
I think that it's just gonna start with like some battle montage where like, which I think we see it in the trailer. Thor's helping the Guardians do whatever gig,
like reveals that he's not fat anymore, and
and then he's gonna feel like, okay, well, I'm bored. This is just, you know, I'm tired of doing this whole thing. I'm doing it because I'm supposed to be doing it. It's just like, but
I'm going on a journey.
Fulfilling to me. So he leaves. He's just like, okay, I'm done being part of the you know, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then he goes on his own solo journey, which I think is a really smart idea, honestly, because then you're gonna have like the Guardians have Guardians 3 plus Thor. It's like too much. I think we're done with crossovers for now with Marvel. I feel like we need to kind of after Endgame, we need to kind of go back to small, intimate stories about characters growing, and then kind of build up again towards like the crossover, and you know, take it easy with all the, you know, all the Marvel synergy.
Except we already have a lot of crossovers with Doctor Strange.
Except we already have a lot of crossovers with Doctor Strange.
Except everything.
But it's called the multiverse of madness, though. You can't call it that and not have that. And it's just variants of, well, we'll see. We don't know anything about it. But for me, one of the cool things about the trailer is this whole thing that I think now it's kind of Taika's brand, especially when you see Jojo Rabbit, you see Hunt for the Wilder People, and like his other films and TV shows, where it's just this whole veneer of wacky and fun and like jokes and, you know, and all this humor thrown throughout. But at the core of it, it's just a lot of heart and a lot of meaning and a lot of depth. And I think that's the really cool thing that he's doing with these comic movies that he's done so far with these both of these Thor films. It's like, yeah, we can explore comic book heroes in a different way. We can have fun with it. They don't have to be Zack Snyder, you know, dark and gloomy. They don't have to be gritty and grounded like Christopher Nolan, and they don't have to be like necessarily like the formulaic Marvel stuff. They can just be as crazy as the comic books are, and that doesn't mean that we're not taking it serious, and it doesn't mean that there isn't emotion behind it, because one of the first lines that Thor says in that trailer is like, oh, these hands were used for battle, but now they're humble tools for peace. And I'm like, well, that's kind of deep, you know, for like a movie that just seems a little wacky and zany.
And we're already setting it in the trailer. So
exactly. Yeah. And you know, that whole scene, he's just, you know, putting a Stormbreaker in the ground as if it were like a cross, or he's letting it to rest and just meditating in front of the trees. Just like it was a visual spectacle that's just, for me, just lets me know that the movie's more than just like, you know, the action spectacle and the, the pulpy spectacle. we hope. Yeah. But knowing Taika, I'm sure he'll pull that trigger. But it's such a cool combination of everything that just you'd think wouldn't meld, but it somehow does, which is like the kind of campy 70s, 80s comic book aesthetic with, you know, with the action comedy of, you know, the 80s and 90s, but then with the, you know, Marvel veneer of movies from nowadays, but then with the heart, you know, of a drama to an extent. So, and this is just from a trailer. I could be completely wrong. Maybe there isn't that much drama, but I mean, after seeing Ragnarok, I feel confident that Taika isn't gonna just do us a one-dimensional character here. He's gonna give us like a level of Thor that we haven't seen before, which I think is amazing considering how one-dimensional Thor was in Avengers 1, Thor
Yeah.
1 and Thor 2 to kind of give him that depth that he's gotten in Infinity War and Endgame thanks to Ragnarok. It's amazing. And I think he's the first superhero of the Marvel canon to have a fourth movie, because Iron Man only got 3. Captain America will get a fourth one allegedly. That's going to be a new Captain America. So good job, Chris Hemsworth. You stuck for it for the long haul, and you got your fourth film. So.
And before we move on from
it.
the trailer, I think we have to comment on how amazing Natalie Portman looks.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Please.
Not the usual skinny type, whatever heroine, just badass, strong, the outfit full helmeted.
Yep.
Mjolnir,
Not the senator
like,
from
broken
Naboo.
and reattached, and you can see the light through the hammer and everything. Oh my God.
She's not losing the will to live this time.
Yep.
No. Padme's back, and she's here to kick some ass.
Yep.
Did you see those guns?
Oh,
Did you see those guns?
Oh,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ. We were at I'm not into guns. I don't own guns, but we went to the gun show and we got those. Oh my God, we were well fed. And all I could say is I might have been aroused. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
I think all of us collectively kind of want to be crushed between those arms a little bit.
Yes. Because if she's not skipping arm day, I can imagine that she's not skipping leg day. So I'll be crushed anywhere she wants to crush me, because it was incredible. And to see Mjolnir back with the with all the back together, but with the lightning coming out of it, and fantastic,
amazing.
Very happy to see like all these Star Wars people, Taika and Padme / Natalie Portman do like the Marvel stuff, and are getting ready for their eventual Star Wars comebacks. Even though I don't know how Natalie Portman will come back to Star Wars, but if she came back to Marvel, maybe she'll come back to Star Wars. Maybe she has a little cameo, Obi-Wan Kenobi,
the Kenobi show,
a flashback.
I mean, they're already in the payroll.
They're and she's in the studio. Like, I don't know how the filming schedules were, but maybe they're they have the volume, and because I think they were filming Thor in Sydney, and I think there's a volume in Sydney. So they just have to send the files over there so she can film a scene and then composite it for. I don't know. All I'm saying,
anything's possible. Just do it.
What I'm saying is, we got the technology. Make it work. But before we seg into Moon Knight, I think one of the cool things, which is relevant to talk about this trailer and then talk about Moon Knight, is what we saw in the trailer, which you guys already mentioned, which is Russell Crowe as Zeus in the pantheon of Greek gods. Because in Moon Knight, we're seeing the pantheon of Egyptian gods. Yeah. So now we see like Marvel is kind of like pulling the trigger on all this like the mystical realms even further.
And they did Romans and Greeks also in Eternals, which we'll talk about at one point too.
Yes.
So
and so it's really cool. I want to see if all these gods are friends somehow. If they have like a lounge for gods where they where Zeus and Ra or have tea together or something. I don't know, but I think it's very interesting that they're going hard on this whole god thing kind of at the same time. So it makes me wonder if there's going to be at some point I was talking about not crossing over, but now it's just like inevitable. There's going to be like some crossover between the gods of the Thor realm and then the gods of the Moon Knight realm. So with that, we go into that Moon Knight realm.
Well, and I mean, it all works because I mean, superheroes basically are the modern gods. It's the new god myth. Right. It's superheroes. So
which is something that I think that DC does very well. It's like they really double down on like the modern gods myth, as opposed to Marvel, because I think Marvel's heroes are more human-esque, even though some of them are supernatural.
Some of them,
they're more grounded in that sense. Mm-hmm. They're humans with supernatural abilities as opposed to the DC pantheon,
the superhuman,
except Batman.
Except Batman.
Like human.
Right. It's like the inverse, but. It's cool. We have space for both. We don't have to choose DC or Marvel. I want both. I want to be fed from all directions. I don't want to eat
DC
one
get better.
meal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
DC, get better at the live action, please.
Hey, the Batman was awesome. And by the way, it's on HBO Max. So if you didn't get to see it on movie theaters, you can see it from the comfort of your home now.
Ooh, nice.
Good, because I haven't seen it yet.
Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. Oh my God. It's amazing. That's all I'm going to say. I was watching it today while I was working, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah.
Because it's Batman. You know?
Okay, so look forward to, we're probably going to talk about the Batman as well soon.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
Eternals and Batman. Batman Eternal.
Batman Eternal.
Batman Eternal. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I like that. But anyway, Moon Knight. What did we think about episodes 2 and 3? We're building some steam here.
We
Yeah,
are.
halfway point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a six
It is 6 episodes, yeah.
Okay.
Unless
I think-
Google is lying to me.
I think
It
it
is
is
6
supposed to be
Which
6.
you know, they could be.
It's fine.
Like, they've lied to us many times. So
Yeah, but I think we should
And these
start with
are
you,
longer
Mo, because
episodes, so.
you were the one that was a little bit more mellow on
fence.
liking it or not. So what have you thought so far with what we've seen in the last 2 episodes?
I think, you know, about if I like where the show is setting.
Mm.
I think it lost a little bit of that funkiness that it started with. Like it didn't double down on the wackiness that the first episode had, which I'm a little bit now like sad in retrospect, because I feel like, you know, if you start something like, and that's gonna be your thing, like what separates you from other characters, then go for it.
Mhm.
Because like at this moment, Moon, like the character per se just feels like a generic superhero that just happens to have powers from a god. Like there's I don't think like it feels like they're playing on that whole like yeah, we know they he has like at least 2 people inside, you know, I have Mark and Stephen and who knows
Probably
what else,
3.
but probably a third. Like it's been
Mhm.
hinted at, which is probably what's going to happen in the next episode. Now that
Mhm.
they're all unconscious and the god is imprisoned and they're
Mhm.
tethered, not imprisoned.
Tethered.
That's
Right.
it's the actual term. But I do love like the whole mythological aspect that they're bringing into
Mhm.
it, the whole
Mhm.
culture. There's this, it feels like immersive. It honestly feels like, you know, I've never been to Egypt, but it feels like I'm in Egypt and I'm like going through the city and like enjoying different
Yeah.
aspects of it, and I'm in the journey with them. So I feel like that is very, to me, it's very rewarding, especially since it's a culture that a lot of things are based off
Yeah.
in our modern day cultures. And we have reference to all of like Egyptians, like all around, like on our structures of power. Like you just take a look at the dollar bill, and most of there's a bunch of Egyptian signs in there. Like there
The
is
Illuminati.
the Illuminati as well. I mean, you can go down the rabbit hole. Like
Yeah.
and this series sort of confirms that rabbit hole, that, you know, the Egyptian gods and goddesses of power, they're still the ones that are like dealing behind the shadows and like protecting the world and doing like their bidding through their avatars. So you get a sense of like the god and goddesses powers that are way beyond what humans can comprehend.
Mhm.
I'm still just disappointed with like the Mark and Steven dynamic that's going on. Like I feel like either you break your character, like they're intending like, oh, there's a broken like person that can't deal with it, like break them down, like make them seem unstable. But they're not. They seem like, you know, whoever's in control has like their everything under control. Like it's a little bit disappointing, because if you like understand a little bit about like DID, the whole aspect of it is that none of the single identities are complete. They're all broken down. They all have like aspects that the other one needs, or vice versa. They cannibalize on aspects of their character that the other identity doesn't have. And apart from like, oh, Steven knows Egyptian and like can figure this out, like there hasn't been like that inner fight of like, this is a broken person, like with awesome powers of an avatar. Like it just doesn't feel that way. I do love the development of and I forgot their name, but the antagonist, or who we think is the antagonist,
Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke. The guy is like, every time I'm like, yes, like welcome back in. Like I just want to hear you like explain things and like antagonize this whole like.
He's been fantastic, I think.
He's been fantastic. Like and the acting on everybody else has been like fantastic. It's just like, you know, I'm just disappointed in the main character. That's it. Like everything else is just beautiful, and like I love like there's like a reference like to different aspects of like time and space seen through each episode, and especially the last one when you see like, okay, the first power is to make an eclipse, and then the awesome power of like turning the whole night sky.
Gorgeous.
Yeah,
like just mesmerizing in every sense. Like so I'm all for that, but just bring back that broken down funkiness that you had in the first episode, because if they had built on that and combined it with everything else, I think it would be blowing things away. It's just like I don't believe like the character has the ID. That's it. Like it's not believable.
Me and Josbando were having that argument that it's like, is it really the ID, or is he just possessed by multiple people or something? Because it doesn't fully feel like the ID, and even though the whole mirror thing is really cool, it's really hard to understand how it works because they haven't tackled it exactly. You don't know which one's the dominant personality, because we've seen from both sides and we don't really know. We don't know if
they're supposed to not know.
I know, and hopefully we'll
probably
get
be
into that
one.
The third one. Well, because so far we know that Mark was we know that Mark was aware of Steven. Steven was only aware that he was losing time, but wasn't aware of Mark until obviously the events of the show. So we would lean more towards Mark being the main personality, but we're not sure. We don't know if he was born that way or he was broken because of something that happened when he was training as a mercenary. Was it a result of being possessed by the god? Like, what is the source of the actual psychosis, which hasn't been expressed at all? Because I mean, his wife knew that he was the avatar of a god and had a superhero suit, but didn't know that he had multiple personalities.
Right.
I mean, it's a little strange. But back to what you were saying, I kind of disagree that we've lost all wackiness, because that whole put on the suit, call the suit fighting about trying to get it or not. And I have to say that as much as I love Mark's version of the suit, because it just looks epic and just very Egyptian and just, you know, scary and terrifying. And the whole time that he's running around, the cape looks so amazing, even though I'm kind of yelling at the screen, like we learned from Incredibles, no capes. So you shouldn't be running around like that. And I always assume that something bad is going to happen, but it looks amazing. Like,
exactly.
It looks amazing, but I'm kind of partial to Steven's suit.
Yeah.
It's very dapper.
It's so
dapper.
Cool. It's like,
so, I mean, and it's so contrasting that a different personality has a completely different vision of how this superhero is how this god is supposed to look like. So I really like that.
But I love that it's an accident. It's not that
I
it's
know
not that he projects that that's how it should be. So that's what he thought.
That's what he thought it should be.
What it was.
As he's falling down, and suddenly it's like, oh look, and toys. Look, I have things to play with. And then and then I really liked like when he's fighting the jackal and nobody can see it. It's very Fight Clubby, that scene, which, you know, is another character that had DID, the character from Fight Club. So it was very reminiscent of it as it was happening. So I was like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. And I don't know, visually it's stunning. The acting, as we've said multiple times, I mean, Oscar Isaac is blowing me away. The way he can do these two characters that are so completely different, and not just the facial expressions, but even like the tone of voice, the way they articulate everything, there's a lot there. And then obviously Ethan Hawke is blowing me away. It's so precise. He knows.
How did you feel about, like, speaking of Oscars acting, how do you feel about his accent as like the Brit as Mark? You think it's a good accent? Because I've heard, you know, opposite things. Oh, he's doing a fantastic accent, or he's doing a terrible accent. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm terrible at accents and recognizing accents, to be honest. I think he's pulling it off, but at the same time, it's like so weird to hear, because even, you know, the sound of his voice, the pitch, everything changes. So I mean, I think he's pulling it off, and he sounds like a completely different person. So for me, it's good.
I agree. Just curious, because I've heard other people be like, he's not doing a good British accent or a Cockney accent or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't sound like Keanu Reeves and Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah.
So it's good to me. That's my benchmark for bad. So I'm just.
And you know, at the end of the day, I'm not British, so I cannot completely, you know.
It's very true.
Analyze
have
it.
I been there, so I can't.
Yeah. So I can't tell you what is good or not. So, but to me, it sounds good. It sounds so weird coming out of his mouth, honestly. So you look at his face and then that voice comes out, and it's so strange. But anyway, back to Harrow. That character creeps me out so much. Every time I hear him walking and the glass crunching from his sandals, it's such a good detail that they've done from the beginning, that they build it up when he put them on from the beginning, and then you can still, every time he walks, you can hear in the background the crunching of the glass.
Which, fun fact, that wasn't in the script originally. That was Ethan Hawke's idea.
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
To add the shorts.
To put the glass in the sandals. That was his idea, because he's like exploring the character. And he's like, well, if he's like this religious zealot, you know, there has to be something that he does. It's like kind of Opus Dei, you know, how they do
the self-flagellation thing.
And he came up with that, and they're like, that's perfect. Let's film it. I was like, oh, good job, Ethan. Good job.
And even like, I love that whole like ending where like he's talking to like the old like his old master, like,
right,
you know, thank you for breaking me. Like I just love that transcendent aspect of that character, that he probably knows what Mark and Steven are going through. Like,
he does.
Like he did. He was the previous Avatar, and the way he expressed, like, there was no remorse. There was like, it was actually just complete, like, you know, thank you for that pain, because it forged who I am.
And you made me discover healing. Instead of revenge. Like
what a powerful like imagery, like. And to know that, you know, just because you heal doesn't mean you might be on the right path. Like, you can still heal. But it is healing. Like, it's kind of like, I just imagine like a tree that falls on the side and it still keeps growing. Like, it is growing, it's still healing. It's not aiming at the direction it usually would be, but it is still a healing process. And to see that, I think it was just like mesmerizing, like, oh, thank you. Like, because it is like, that is the transcendent part of it. You have to be grateful for all you suffered, because that's the only thing that brought you to where you are.
Well, and I think there's, sorry, go.
Oh, please.
But I think there's this really cool, and I hope they keep exploring it, this really cool juxtaposition between like Khonshu and Amit, and then the fact that Harrow was originally Khonshu's avatar, and all that death and destruction that he admitted he actually enjoyed as it was happening broke him. And then he has those questions about Mark and Steven, is like, did he pick you because you would be easily broken, or because you were already broken? So, you know, this character who's supposed to be like the avatar of justice is really the avatar of vengeance and hate, and destroys his own avatars. But then we have Amit, who I'm hoping we get to meet the actual goddess when she's released, and see what happens.
100%.
But I mean, clearly she's a judgmental bitch who wants to judge everybody, like even before they commit their crimes. Very minority style, Minority Report style.
Mhm.
So I mean, how can you judge somebody before the actions are committed? Is it because she can really read fate, or is it because she's just following her own agenda and decides to put blame on whoever she wants? I mean,
Which is the interesting thing of her choosing Harrow as her avatar, because if she's all into like, you know, punishing the deeds of the people who will commit deeds, then why isn't she punishing him for the deeds he's already committed? So there's like a hypocrisy there already, right?
But it's interesting
which is-
because
Mhm.
but because the way that Harrow explains it's almost like it's not if you do something evil, it's like if you have evil in your roots.
Mhm.
That's and it's possible that by the time Amit found Harrow, there was no evil. He was already broken down by
well, I don't think
all the
Harrow
acts.
is supposed to be considered evil, at least by Amit
No,
anyway,
no,
or
of
by
course
the
not.
god. By
You're an avatar. How can you be evil? You're being
Yeah.
controlled.
No,
by
but even
a god
Khonshu,
or
because even
goddess.
Khonshu is considered to be the spirit of vengeance. He only punishes people who have done wrong. So he's not really doing bad. He's just causing, you know, getting retribution for people who had already committed evil acts. Amit just wants to take it even further because says that justice comes too late. I have to take justice into my own hands before the action's even committed.
Right, but we
Which
don't
is a
know
little-
but we don't know their power. Like if one remembers everything, the other can definitely see the future. Like it's such a human thing to
But
say
in the
like, oh, we
future,
don't
is
know
the
what's gonna
future the
happen.
future if you are able to change the path you're in?
Yeah, are we
always the
eliminating
notion the
choice
future is,
completely?
right?
Or what if it's just an
Yeah.
illusion? You're never able to change any path. It's just the illusion of free choice, and that never existed.
Well, that's
right?
clearly what
But-
she's trying
but
to say, that
I
there's no
don't-
choice.
I mean, I
but
never
I don't
like
buy
going
into the
into-
fact. I don't
Neither do
like the
I,
fact
because
that you
if we
take
have
choice away from
gods-
everything. There
Yeah.
always
Of
has
course
to be
you
a
don't like
choice.
it. Of course you won't like it because it's like of
But the-
course.
the
What
thing-
what
the
a
thing
human
is,
thing
if
to
we-
say. I don't like. I don't have a
if
choice.
we have gods that can just affect everything, then it's just reductive and like, idiotic to that point to like even have that argument, because they can just eliminate it in both directions. So it's I just don't like it because it just defeats their own purpose. Because you're a god, then just don't do it. And just establish a system where you don't have to punish, and people, their choices are always good. So it's just like, if there's always going to be a negative choice, then you're a god, change it. So I don't like I don't like that argument, because
course you don't like
it's
it.
reductive to a weird extent, because then it's their choices, right? So it's you know, it becomes absurdist, because it's just a cycle of like where's
It's
the
because
choice and
at the
who
end of
is
the day, it's
right.
because
Yeah.
we're human and we want to think that our choices matter.
Exactly.
When they don't necessarily do.
Well, they
But
do. To
I like
us,
to
right?
think they
'Cause
do.
They do to us, because
Yeah.
my life matters to me. I don't care if my choices matter to someone on the street, because my life is not theirs to judge, but it's up to me to be a good person. So my choices matter to me. So it's weird to say that like our choices don't matter, because if they didn't, we would just kill ourselves, and we don't, right? Because we like to live and we like to be alive and we want to be happy, because otherwise we wouldn't, you know, have friends and do the things that you want to do. So it's a weird argument in that sense, and I don't like to be reductive that way, because in practice we don't do those things. We might we might theologically say these things to go in the rabbit hole of theory, but in practice we absolutely do not do those things. We do think about the things we do. We do take decisions. We do wake up and say like, oh, what am I going to do today? Let me look at my calendar. Let me do these things. Am I going to be an asshole to this person? Am I not going to be an asshole to that person? So we are actively making hundreds of decisions every day. We're not being nihilists in our decision making every single minute. So, and I don't care how much people try to deny it. In practice, they are not. And I've spoken.
Again, you could definitely have said that and still be scripted, you know.
Yeah.
It could be like Westworld, you know. Your program is meant to tell every single word you said. And so the question is it worth it for you to spend the time thinking about this or not? And that is the choice.
The answer is yes, because there it's a ridiculous statement to even make, because otherwise, if no one's making a decision about anything, no one's doing anything about nothing, and then society doesn't
No,
exist,
that's
and
not what we're
humanity
saying.
Or
People
that-
make their
that's-
choices, but what they're saying is that Amit says that choices are already predetermined. So even though we think we're making choices,
except they're not, because if she wanted to
Yeah.
change things and the betterment of someone, she would present someone the choice, like, hey, this is the path that you're on, and
I agree on
either
that.
you do
Yeah,
something
presenting
here,
change
and
instead of
your
judging.
path
Yeah.
will diverge. Is the multiverse. We can accept the multiverse of infinite possibilities, but we can't accept that the judgment of Amit is actually true. It's like, no, if you present
And
someone
that's
with
what
a
I
choice,
said, that Amit is a judgmental
they can
bitch.
change.
Because
Very true.
you're not giving people the chance to change. You're just saying, oh, you're gonna commit something in the future, dead. Oh, you're gonna do
Which is-
something
because that because
dead.
that is
Which
Amit's
is the
nature.
problem with Minority, not the
I know.
problem with Minority Report, but the question in Minority Report
Yeah.
is like, the minute that they stop something from happening,
Mhm.
then it didn't happen. So it's just like, there was no crime when
Yeah.
when it happened, even if it was like a millisecond before the crime.
And there's no
crime
crime if
didn't
you
happen.
think about it, but if you don't actually act on it, it's not a crime. Because we think about committed crimes all the time. How many times everybody
Very
has thought
much
about
so.
murdering their boss and nobody actually does it?
I'm not gonna admit it
or few
here
people do it.
because but if we go to the bar, I will admit to some things. Absolutely.
So it calls into question a lot of those things, which I think is really interesting, which is why I hope they'll keep doing that, especially through the
Mhm.
character of Harrow and maybe bringing more depth into Mark and Steven, because I think they're trying so hard to like separate those two characters instead of making it into one person. That's the thing that they're failing at a little bit. So maybe we'll
Yeah.
see more of like that character as it embraces all its personalities, plus now the fact that they lost the god and their superpowers,
Mhm.
and they got Layla back in their life and trying to figure out how that works. So I mean, it's a lot to
'Cause I
do in
think-
3
I think
episodes. so-
that's what's gonna. I think that's where it's might be going now, especially. I mean, because we're in the Spider-Man 2 point
Mhm.
of the movie, right? We're in the halfway point. The hero loses his powers.
Yeah.
Like how he has to reckon with himself without those powers. So what does that mean? So there's a journey of self-discovery now. I mean, I'm assuming, right, based on where we are through
Mhm.
all other media that we've seen. So I think this is that time where he has that reckoning of like who he is, who's the main personality, or who isn't the main personality, and what does it
Or just working
mean to
together.
be,
Yeah.
right? Exactly. It's
Mhm.
like, well, then do I accept it and move on? Do I not and keep like this eternal fight going? So I think now it's when it's gonna get even more interesting, because
Mhm.
now it's gonna like pump the brakes to just eliminate the
Internalize.
fantastical
Mhm.
element of
Mhm.
just like the superhero part. It's like, no, now it's the hero within instead of the hero. There's a hero without, right? The hero without the powers, and the hero within, to not then become the hero you're meant to be with your
Mhm.
powers, because obviously it's cool to have the suit and the glowy eyes.
The glowy eyes
Exclusive.
are kind of epic, yes. Just a little bit. Mhm.
Now I want to see the third suit. It's gonna be like it's gonna be a gun. I'm gonna call it. It's gonna be like a Gundam style suit. Like we'll
I
see
hope
like a
so. Well, because
Like, why
we
not?
know that
Like-
we know that this third personality is extremely violent, right? Because even as Steven, who isn't afraid to, punch a couple guys in the fucking face, even he was surprised when all of a sudden like he wakes
Yeah.
up and sees a bunch of dead people around him. He's like,
Yeah.
whoa, 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 whoa. This wasn't me. So if he's violent, this new personality, well, not new, this other personality is even more violent. So that can
I
only
mean, and there's also
say
the
that-
possibility that there's not a third personality. It's just Khonshu completely taking over when neither of them are aware, and just taking complete use of the body.
Yeah.
And fulfilling his own
it's
agenda.
just being 100%
So-
Avatar.
Mhm.
which now makes me confused about his powers, because if he can't do
Yeah.
that, why not?
Just possess anybody. Well, maybe that's why he picked him, because of the DID, and the DID allows for another personality to insert itself.
And
Which is
control the
the-
whole body
Yep.
without. Yeah.
Which is the question that Harrow answered. Is it because you're easily broken, or because you were already so broken and it's convenient? So it could go either way, that there's either a
It could
third
go,
personality
go.
or it's just Khonshu completely taking over.
But I think it's a third one, because Conchu's not gonna be in the next episode because he's in a little rock doll or whatever it's
Mhm.
called. So I mean, I don't know. I'm excited. I really like the show because of that, because it's like
I'm
this
enjoying
cool
it a lot, yeah.
combination.
Mhm.
This is cool. It's like obviously it's not like all in weirdness like
Yeah.
Loki, But it's like the groundedness of like a Batman thing or in Indiana Jones thing, but mixed with that, mystical, it's like little Salt Bay, little mystical thing sprinkled on top to kind of heighten it a little bit. So I'm really enjoying it because of that. One other thing that I really have enjoyed about it, and we can't talk about other cultures without talking about how they're represented, is like the positive representation, right, that we've seen so far of Egypt and Egyptian people. I mean, obviously there's like bad Egyptians running around because there's bad guys everywhere. I mean, that's not exclusive to any culture. But to show like Egypt in a colorful and beautiful way, like a Middle Eastern, country in a colorful, beautiful way, and
it's
not
very immersive.
not the default that Hollywood always has, which is like slap a yellow filter onto it, just show that
And
it's
slums,
sand,
and
and
that's
they're slums, they're uncivilized. It's just a terrible place to be. It's very refreshing to be like, no, this is a beautiful place with beautiful people and a beautiful culture that's bright and beautiful and colorful, and we're gonna show it that way and have that romantic view of a place and have it represented in a positive way. It's always good and impactful, and that made me very happy to see that. And I hope that that continues in the future with any and all culture and peoples that will be represented henceforth. So I just wanted to put that up there because
I agree.
we always have to put our little
It's just
little sprinkle.
a little nugget. And I love like the character, Lila's character.
Yeah. When she does that,
she's more badass than either Mark or
Steven.
That's
yeah.
That's why Conchu wants her.
That's what Conchu.
True.
Conchu's been like, maybe that's why Conchu went for Mark and Steven, to see if he can get to Lila. Like,
go to the
like,
side.
Yeah, she's a badass.
But she is. And I love like how, I'm sure, I don't know if that was their mom or there's somebody like in their family that was making their fake passports and like that whole conversation. Like it felt like it was so wholesome. Like, you're bringing in the fact that, you can be a mercenary, treasure hunter, scavenger of your life, but you still have a family and they care for you, and like they'll be there for you. So
there was a hint somewhere that Mark had something to do with her dad's death, or knew about it, or there was something in there.
I think that's what I'm expecting to be the
reveal
is that he killed her dad.
I mean, and that could have been the psychotic break right there, because if you notice, Steven's personality is very into what she's into. Like he's making up for the fact that he maybe abandoned her or hurt her or something, because he's into like her favorite poetry, learned French, got into the whole Egyptian thing. I know. So it's kind of him maybe trying to make up for what he did to her. And that might have been where that personality comes from. So I don't know. Hopefully they'll look more into that, because it's really interesting to watch. And especially because Layla's so accepting. She was the first one. It's like, just more Steven. Bring back Steven. You can't do this right now. I mean, so it's.
I mean, let's face it. She probably likes Steven better than Mark. Right?
I want to figure out. Wait, who was the? Wait. Okay, here we go. Hathor's avatar, like the woman who was talking to Oscar Isaac before, who was implying that there's a previous relationship between Conchu and her avatar.
Yeah,
that's an angle I also kind of want to see more of, because I mean, it's cool to see all of like Mark and Steven stuff with Layla, but this whole mystical thing, it's also like
the god of vengeance.
So,
having a relationship with the goddess of music and love. Yeah.
Yes, especially because one of my favorite parts of episode 3 was right before, like they do the awesome, turn back time thing, and just like change the whole stars. It's like Conchu just kind of looking out into the horizon and just saying like, I remember every night, and just you can feel that he just says it with
the desolation
and with sadness. And it's just like, okay, was that, I mean, something important happened that night, not just because of the burial of Amit, but
I mean that is kind of important.
Well, yeah, but I think there's something personal.
There's something more. There's it's fine.
I want to see that because maybe Amit was kind of a cool. I mean, Conchu was kind of a mellow revenger. You know, he would take revenge on people, but in a mellow kind of way. And ever since that day, he's like lost his chill because you know everything went down the tubes, and it's just like maybe he was in love with her, and they broke up that day. And he's like hasn't gotten over her, so it's just like okay, I'm gonna try to impress you with like making the solar eclipse and stuff like that. So I want to see. I want to see that history. I want to see weird gods
why he got
doing
banned
weird
in the
things.
first place?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I
and
wanna
what drove both of them to such extremism? Because Amit was free at one point too, and then Amit got, you know, interred because of the extremism. So what drove them to be such zealots and then to make their avatars zealots as well?
Yeah.
And create this, because the Amit thing with, you know, Harrow and everything, that's a cult. That is straight up a cult.
Yeah.
So
Like, I mean, at least it's I mean, I'm not saying that cults are good, but at least they're well educated. They grow their own plants. They learn 3 languages. You know, they learn to fight apparently, so they know good self-defense. So as far as cults go, they're not like the Kool-Aid drinking ones. They're at least, you know, doing some good for society. The problem is that the zealotry and the suicide cult, because you know they're all there. It's like, yeah, gotta die, gotta die.
and apparently they're okay with child murder.
Yes. That's,
So yeah, that's not okay.
That was like an interesting angle. Like,
Yeah, you're okay even with children when
I
children
gotta,
are really.
I gotta give it. Yeah, I gotta give it to Ethan Hawke for how
Yeah,
he
he's like,
played that scene because
yeah.
he all like the way they phrased it and his cool, calm delivery was like plausible. But then you're like, wait, child murder? No, it's not plausible.
well, it is one of those like classic
baby
like,
Hitler type of things.
moral utilitarian questions. Like, if you could go back and not even kill like Hitler, like, you know, was drowning, and will you save that person knowing it was gonna be turned into Hitler? And then if you don't save them, are you being Amit?
Yeah.
I prefer these thought experiments because they're actually productive as opposed to like these weird nihilistic circles where we don't get anywhere. But
but that is a good one. Like, do you punish that person after they did all the genocides and all the Holocaust, or do you just uproot that person if you had that knowledge?
The thing is, in real life, we can't have that knowledge
Yet.
until we get to like the interstellar future that Christopher Nolan promised us, where we can go into the Tesseract and see time all at once. I'm gonna reserve.
I mean, but then who is to say then that Amit doesn't have that power?
Oh well, now we're back in MCU. Yeah, but the problem is that what Nani was saying, she does have the power to see that. I mean, at least so far, maybe.
Allegedly.
Maybe she's lying.
Allegedly, maybe she's doing it to her own agenda as well. Or maybe she can see it, but there's a specific future that she wants to get to, and she'll eliminate anybody that will get in the way.
Right.
It's not necessarily about good or bad.
Kind of thing.
Yep.
What's the? Oh my god! I think I mentioned it last time we were talking about Moon Knight, like the movie with Angelina Jolie and the gun and Morgan Freeman,
Wanted.
where they have to Wanted.
Yeah.
It might be one of those things where she's pretending that she's reading the thing, but she's just like, not that she isn't eliminating bad people, but she's taking liberties about which ones to keep as long as it's my agenda, and which ones to be like, oh well, you stole candy and you're gonna kind of stand against me, so so you stole something, you're bad. So maybe I think there has to be more nuance to her than just like, you know, just straight binary. I can see everyone's future, because even if you can, again, she doesn't give anyone
especially
choice.
because we know in most of these mythologies these gods are selfish and always have their own agenda. Always.
They're not all powerful.
Well, the reason for that is because gods are just projection of humans' needs and wants.
Correct.
Facts.
So put that on your pipe. Happy Easter, everybody.
I actually think that's a good stop point, because we're just starting to speculate a lot. We still have 3 more episodes to go, so we don't necessarily know where this is all gonna go. But I love the philosophical, mythological arguments all around.
You want deep dives? You want deep dives? You got the deep dives.
So before we go, any last thoughts?
I want more crazy, more sky things, more
sky
gods, more. I want to see I want to see how the other gods, I don't want to see their
Yeah.
avatars. I want to see them come and see
The
what
actual
their
representation
powers
of the
are.
gods. Yeah. Because
yes.
the character design on
Khonshu.
Khonshu is so amazing.
Awesome.
Especially when it started like super creepy, like horror movie kind of thing, and then you kind of see him just same design but just lounging around like, I'm your friend, my head is disconnected from my body, but it's so it looks so good. So I would like
Maybe,
to have
I hope that Disney does a little like figurine of the Khonshu thing from last episode. Maybe I'll get it like that so I can add it to the then because last episode was very Indiana Jonesy if you think about it. So this will fit right next to
it would work.
golden fertility idol from Raiders of the Lost Ark. What about you, Mo? What do you want to see?
Yeah, I want to see like that, like what you all said, like dive into the mythology. Like I want to, and to like actually see a broken down Moon Knight.
Yeah.
I like make either go for it or don't. Like like stick to your guns. Yeah, you want to make a crazy character, go for it, make a crazy character. Like, but don't half-ass it and say like, oh, this is crazy, but we all know it's not.
I've heard some friends of ours who are
and I don't use
reviewers.
crazy in a despective term.
I
love crazy.
Yeah.
Like just putting out there.
Yeah.
Crazy in my dictionary, crazy is good. So
yeah.
It's not a slur, but I have from friends of ours who are reviewers and are lucky enough to get screeners and are able to see things before the general populace, the plebes like us. Some of them have said that the show really kicks into gear in the 4th episode.
Ooh.
So, I mean, they don't say what, obviously, because, they're not allowed to. But maybe we'll get all of this. Maybe we'll get all of this and
we'll
more.
See. But I know if I've been enjoying it so far, and if it really gets kickstarted in the next episode, then I can only be even more excited for it because I really have been enjoying it so far very much, way more than I was expecting.
One last thing before we wrap up that I wanted to say about how much I've been enjoying the show is that unlike other streaming shows where, especially Netflix shows, kind of like Stranger Things or something, where it's just one binge watch and every episode is sex into the next and it just feels like a very long movie. I've really appreciated that Moon Knight, each episode feels very contained. And it's just like, well, this is what happens in this episode and then something else happens in this.
Except there's basically illegal cliffhangers after every episode.
Well, but they still feel, at least to me, like very contained. Like the first one's like him and you see him and what's happening there. Second one's when he meets Harrow and the fight in the street. Third one's Egypt. So, it's just kind of like, obviously they segue into the next because, the main arc of the show. But I appreciate that you can just see one episode.
Yeah.
And then, you have to wait for the next one, obviously, but it doesn't feel like, again, Stranger Things is like, well, okay, it's just like, they all blend together because no one episode has one personality.
Yeah. And then by the time you get to the end, you don't really remember what happened at the beginning.
Exactly.
So, because it happens.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So
thank you.
Anyway, I think we've been enjoying the ride so far. Disclaimer to hardcore Marvel nerds. We didn't know anything about Moon Knight, so we don't know it. If anything here is canonical, if they're doing it right or wrong, we're just enjoying it as, first time watchers and who know nothing about this character. It's just awesome so far. So we will continue to watch this show and we'll let you know what happens in the next few episodes, what we think about them. So for the time being, we are done. We are Triad of the Force. Remember to like, subscribe, ring that bell, leave some comments. We want to know if you guys are liking these episodes too. You can find us wherever podcasts can be found. Just search Triad of the Force and you will find us. And look for us on Star Wars Celebration. Until next time, may the Force be with you.